All right. Welcome, everyone, to another deep dive. Today, we're going to be talking about someone whose name I think a lot of people recognize, but whose work I think a lot of people aren't familiar with. We're going to be talking about Nikola Tesla.
One of my favorites.
Oh, yeah. He's a fascinating figure. So we have some source material about his life, about his achievements, and we're going to be kind of diving into all of that.
Yeah, and really just trying to get people, I think, to have a better understanding of how much of an impact he really had.
Absolutely, yeah. A lot of people know his name and kind of have a vague idea of what he did.
Right.
But I think a lot of people don't fully appreciate just how much he contributed and also how far ahead of his time he really was.
Yeah, a lot of his thinking was just so forward-thinking that it wasn't really appreciated or understood until much later.
Right.
So that's going to be a cool thing to kind of dig into.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So let's jump right in. I guess the first thing to talk about is just who he was, right? So this Serbian-American inventor, electrical engineer, mechanical engineer, futurist, a lot of titles.
Yeah, he wore a lot of hats.
Yeah, he did. He did. But I think a lot of his real drive started early on.
Yeah.
Right? Like his fascination with science began at a very young age.
Yeah, that's one thing that really comes out in his biographies is just this innate ability. He was captivated by electricity, by mechanics from when he was just a kid.
Like almost an obsession.
Yeah, I mean, if you read some of his accounts, he talks about these vivid visions that he would have, these almost like hallucinations that were kind of sparking all of these innovative ideas in his head.
And I think that almost obsessive quality of just being so driven, I think that was a huge part of his success.
It definitely fueled his work ethic and allowed him to kind of persevere through a lot of the setbacks that he faced. When you're that passionate about something, you just keep pushing.
Right. So speaking of pushing through setbacks, that kind of brings us to one of his most famous, moments in history, which is his role in what's often called the current wars.
Oh, yeah.
The battle between AC and DC.
Yeah.
Right.
Right. So you've got Edison championing direct current, or DC, and Tesla comes along and he's all about alternating current, AC. And this was huge.
Yeah, absolutely. We learned about that in school. But I'll be honest, I don't think I ever fully understood why it was so groundbreaking.
Yeah, I think a lot of people don't. I mean, they know that AC won, but they don't necessarily understand the intricacies of why.
Right.
So to really grasp it, we got to think about the limitations of DC, right? DC just couldn't be efficiently transmitted over long distances. Imagine trying to power an entire city using only DC. You'd need power plants practically on every corner.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I never really thought about it like that. So it sounds like Tesla's AC system that was really the key to building these larger power grids that we have today.
Exactly. AC allowed for the efficient transmission of electricity across vast distances, making it possible to interconnect power systems on a grand scale. That's really the foundation of our modern electrical grids.
And it's crazy to think how much our lives depend on that today.
Totally. It's hard to imagine a world without widespread electricity, and that's largely thanks to Tesla's AC system.
It's amazing. So we've talked about AC, whatever the Tesla coil. Everyone sees those amazing pictures of it. But I got to admit, I don't really understand what it is. Beyond the spectacle of it, what's the significance?
Yeah, the Tesla coil, it definitely is visually striking, but it's much more than just a cool science experiment. At its core, it's a high-frequency transformer, and what's brilliant about it is how Tesla was able to achieve these high-voltage, high-frequency currents using the principle of resonance.
Okay, resonance. So how does that play into this?
Think of it like pushing a swing, right? You time your pushes just right, and you can build up a ton of energy with each swing.
Okay, I see. So it's like he's pushing electrons instead of pushing a swing.
Exactly. And this breakthrough had practical implications. The Tesla coil, believe it or not, was actually a precursor to many of the wireless technologies we use today.
Wait a minute. Are you saying that the Tesla coil is somehow connected to radio and Wi-Fi? Those kinds of things.
Absolutely. The coil demonstrated the principles of electromagnetic resonance, which is a fundamental concept behind how radios transmit and receive signals wirelessly.
So he was really on the forefront of wireless technology.
He was a pioneer. In fact, Tesla was deeply involved in the development of radio technology, although that's often overshadowed by Marconi, who usually gets the credit.
Yeah, so it sounds like a lot of these threads of innovation really lead back to Tesla in some way.
Yep.
But even beyond that, his vision went even further, right? He actually dreamed of a world powered entirely wirelessly.
He did. Tesla was completely captivated by the idea of wireless energy transfer. Imagine a world with no power cords, where energy flows freely through the air. That was his ambition with the Wardenclyffe Tower project.
Wardenclyffe Tower, that's the one you always see in pictures with the big dome on top.
Yeah, that's the one. It's amazing how he was thinking about this over a century ago.
Yeah, and if you think about how we're just now starting to just like see things like wireless charging pads become more common,
Right.
it's incredible to think he was already thinking about this stuff back then.
He was way ahead of his time. Unfortunately, the tower was never completed. Funding dried up, and the project was abandoned. The technical challenges of transmitting power wirelessly over long distances were just immense, even for Tesla.
It's almost like this tragic story of a brilliant mind pushing the boundaries of science, but constantly struggling to get the support he needed to really bring his visions to life.
It's true. It does make you wonder what else he might have achieved if he had more resources, more support.
Right. But even without fully realizing that dream of global wireless power, his legacy is huge, right?
Absolutely. I mean, you just think about it. His fingerprints are all over our modern world, from AC power to the wireless technology in our pockets.
And of course, there's the electric car company that bears his name, which feels fitting in a way, right? Like a tribute to a man who was so focused on the future. I mean, there's that quote of his that I love. The present is theirs. The future for which I really worked is mine.
Yeah, it really shows his unwavering belief in the impact of his work, that he was working on things that would eventually change the world.
He definitely had a unique perspective.
Hmm.
I also love that other quote of his, if you want to find the secrets of the universe, think in terms of energy, frequency, and vibration. It speaks to his interest in these unseen forces that shape our world.
Absolutely. He saw the universe as this interconnected web of energy, which is pretty insightful, when you think about it.
Right. It really makes you think,
Mhm.
what could the future hold if we fully embrace that interconnectedness? How would our relationship with energy change if we could tap into that in a deeper way? It's definitely something to ponder.
Well, there you have it, Nikola Tesla, a true visionary. And on that note, we'll wrap up this deep dive. Thanks for joining us today.
Thanks, everyone. And definitely keep exploring the world of Tesla. There's so much more to discover.
Absolutely, you won't regret it.